Cambodia is known for its Angkor Wat, a symbol for its ancient history. Cambodia is a country located in the southern portion of Indochina Peninsula in Southeast Asia. Today, it has a population of 14.9 million.
It has a rich and fascinating history. The Cambodians were civilized very early. The first humans in Cambodia were Stone Age hunters and gatherers. However, farming was introduced at about 2300 BC. The first farmer used stone tools, but from about 1500 BC, the Cambodians used tools and weapons made from bronze. By about 500 BC, they learned how to use iron.
At first, Cambodia was divided into rival states. However, at the beginning of the 9th century, a king named Jayavarman II founded the Khmer Empire in Cambodia. At this time, Cambodia reached its peak of political power and cultural activity. During the 16th century, Cambodian power started to drastically decline. During the 18th century, Cambodia found itself squeezed between two powerful neighbors, Thailand and Vietnam.
During the 18th and the beginning of the 19th century, Cambodia was repeatedly invaded by Vietnam and Thailand. When Vietnam invaded first, Cambodia had to turn to Thailand for assistance. During the 18th and the 19th century, Cambodia was invaded repeatedly by Vietnam and Thailand. When Vietnam invaded first, Cambodia had to turn to Thailand for assistance. And when Thailand invaded next, Cambodia had to turn to Vietnam for help. However, in return for their assistance, Cambodia had to give up land on both of these occasions.
However, in the 1850s, French missionaries arrived in Cambodia. So in 1863, Cambodia became a French protectorate. Under French rule, some economic development took place in Cambodia. Roads and railways were built, and in the 1920s, a rubber industry grew. However, the Cambodians were forced to pay heavy taxes, and from the 1930s, Cambodian nationalism grew.
During World War II, Cambodia was fought between the French and Japanese. In the end, when the Japanese lost, the French took over again. But this time, the French did allow the Cambodians to have political parties and a constitution. It was made semi-independent in 1949. Then in 1952, King Sihanouk dismissed the government and took personal control of the country. And finally, in 1955, Cambodia was made fully independent.
However, Sihanouk's power began to crumble in 1968 when a civil war started between the Communist Party led by Khmer Rouge. In 1975, Cambodia was mainly an agricultural country. However, Khmer Rouge turned it into a complete agricultural country, sending everyone to the countryside. Stuff like religion and private property, they were all banned. Khmer Rouge committed many atrocities and killed as many as 3 million Cambodians.
Fortunately, in 1979, the Vietnamese army invaded and took over Cambodia. The Khmer Rouge retreated rapidly. Today, Cambodia is still recovering from that horrific era. Today, the government has evolved to a multinational democracy under a constitutional monarchy. It is still a relatively poor country. Its GDP per capita is only 2,300.
Cambodia has such a rich and wonderful history. It's a shame that most of the history remnants are either erased or forgotten. It indeed is a country worth studying.